Nobody clapped when Danny Reyes walked through the academy gates. The other new cadets had received welcomes from their species representatives. Flags waved. Music played. Families watched through holographic screens from distant homeworlds. But when the shuttle carrying the first human cadet landed on orbital station Ethon 7, there was only silence. Danny stepped onto the polished floor with a single bag over her shoulder. She was shorter than most aliens around her. Her brown skin and dark hair made her look plain compared to the blue-scaled Felorians and the glowing Malorians who filled the corridor. She looked like nothing special. That was exactly what they thought. Is that it? Someone whispered loud enough for her to hear. That is the species everyone has been talking about. Primitives, another voice added. They still burn dead plants for fuel on their planet. Danny kept walking. She had learned long ago that words meant nothing. Actions meant everything. The Galactic Defense Academy had existed for over 400 years. It trained the best soldiers from across known space. Every species sent their finest children to compete for positions in the fleet. Admirals, commanders, and war heroes had all walked these halls, and no human had ever set foot here before today. Earth had only made contact with the galactic community 3 years ago. Most species still considered humans a curiosity at best and a mistake at worst. The decision to allow one human cadet into the academy had caused protests on 12 different worlds. Danny did not care about protests. She cared about proving something. The dormitory wing stretched before her like a metal canyon. Doors lined both walls, each marked with alien symbols she was still learning to read. Her room was at the very end of the hall, the farthest from everything. The message was clear. She had just reached her door when footsteps echoed behind her. Human. Danny turned slowly. 5 cadets blocked the corridor. The one in front was tall and blue-skinned with sharp features and golden eyes. His uniform carried extra markings that meant family wealth and military legacy. Everything about him screamed privilege. I am Cadet Ryan, he said. My father is Admiral Torath of the 3rd Fleet. My family has produced 11 Academy graduates. We have a reputation to protect. Danny waited. You do not belong here, Ryan continued. Your species has no history, no accomplishments, no reason to stand among us. Leave now, and you will save yourself the humiliation of failing. The cadets behind him laughed. Danny looked at each of them, memorized their faces. Then she turned and pressed her hand to the door panel. Did you hear me? Ryan demanded. I heard you, Danny said without looking back. I just do not care. The door slid open. She stepped inside and let it close behind her. Her room was small. A bed, a desk, a window showing the stars. No decorations. No personal touches. It could have belonged to anyone. Danny sat on the bed and pulled out a worn photograph from her bag. It showed a farmhouse surrounded by golden fields under a bright blue sky. Her family stood in front of it, smiling. Her mother, her father, her little brother with dirt on his face from playing in the fields. Home. Earth. Argentina. She had grown up running through those fields. She had learned to ride horses before she learned to read. She had worked alongside her parents under a sun that would blind most species in the galaxy. She had survived storms that destroyed buildings and heat waves that killed crops. Earth was not a gentle world. It did not forgive weakness. Every human learned that lesson early. These aliens had no idea what that meant. The next morning, Danny reported to the training center for her initial assignment. Instructor Vorith stood at the front of the room. He was Krellian, which meant he was massive. 3 meters tall with 4 arms and scales like armor. His species was known for producing the deadliest soldiers in the fleet. He looked at Danny like she was an insect. Cadet Reyes, he said, reading from a datapad. Earth origin. No prior military training. No genetic modifications. No technological enhancements. He paused. You will be assigned to Training Group 7. Whispers filled the room. Group 7 was the lowest tier. The group for cadets expected to fail. Understood, sir, Danny said. Vorith seemed surprised by her calm response. Most cadets argued. Most cadets begged for better placements. This human simply accepted it. Report to Training Hall Delta at 0800 tomorrow, he said. Do not be late. Yes, sir. Danny left the room without another word. Behind her, she heard the laughter start again. She heard Ryan's voice rising above the others, making jokes about primitive humans and their primitive planet. Let them laugh, she thought. That night, she stood at her window and watched the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth hung in the darkness. A small blue dot that most species considered insignificant. A world too harsh, too dangerous, too unpredictable to matter. They called it a developing world. They called its people primitives. They had no idea that Earth was something far more dangerous than they could imagine. Danny smiled. Tomorrow, the training would begin. Tomorrow, she would show them exactly what an Earthborn could do. Not through words, not through arguments. Through action. They wanted her to fail. They expected her to break. They had no idea who they were dealing with. 6 training drones hovered in the center of the combat hall. Their metal bodies gleamed under the bright lights. Red sensors blinked like hungry eyes waiting for prey. Danny stood at the edge of the arena and watched the cadets before her take their turns. Each one stepped forward with confidence. Each one used the special abilities their species had given them. That a Felorian cadet moved with blinding speed, his blue skin blurring as he struck the drones before they could react. A Krellian used his 4 arms to grab and crush 2 drones at once. A Malorian female let her bioluminescent skin flash in patterns that confused the drone sensors before she destroyed them. Everyone had an advantage. Everyone had something that made them special. Danny had nothing but her own body. Impressive, Instructor Vorith said after each performance. He recorded scores on his datapad and nodded with approval at the alien cadets. Then it was her turn. Cadet Reyes, Vorith called. Step forward. The hall fell quiet. Over 100 cadets lined the walls, watching. Most of them expected entertainment. They wanted to see the human fail. Ryan stood at the front of the crowd with his arms crossed. I bet she does not last 30 seconds, he said loud enough for everyone to hear. Laughter rippled through the room. Danny walked to the center of the arena. She wore the standard training uniform with no armor and no weapons. Just her body against 6 machines designed to test the limits of galactic soldiers. Begin, Vorith said. The drones activated instantly. They spread out in a pattern designed to attack from multiple angles. Their weapons charged with blue energy. Any hit would mean failure. Danny did not wait for them to strike first. She moved forward with a speed that made several cadets gasp. It was not the supernatural blur of a Felorian. It was something different, something efficient. Every step had purpose. Every motion flowed into the next without wasted energy. The first drone fired. Danny was already gone from that spot. She had read its targeting system through the tiny movements of its sensor. She knew where it would shoot before it pulled the trigger. Her fist connected with the drone's central processor. Metal cracked. The machine dropped. The second drone came from her left. She ducked under its attack, grabbed its arm, and used its own momentum to swing it into the third drone. Both crashed together and sparked on the floor. The remaining 3 drones adjusted their tactics. They coordinated now, trying to trap her in a crossfire pattern. Danny smiled. She had trained against worse odds on Earth. She had fought in competitions where losing meant broken bones. She had learned to read opponents before they moved, to find weakness in any attack, to keep going when her body screamed for rest. This was easy. She rolled under the first energy blast, came up behind the 4th drone, and drove her elbow through its chest plate. The 5th drone tried to grab her. She twisted its arm backward until the joint snapped, then kicked it into the wall. The 6th drone was the fastest. It had learned from watching the others fall. It stayed back and fired rapid shots, trying to overwhelm her with volume. Danny picked up a broken drone arm from the floor and threw it like a spear. The metal piece flew across the arena and pierced the final drone through its central eye. Silence filled the hall. Danny stood alone in the center of the arena, surrounded by broken machines. She was not breathing hard. She was not sweating. She looked like she had just taken a casual walk. Vorith stared at his datapad. The numbers made no sense to him. Her strength levels were normal for a human. Her speed was normal. Her reaction time was within expected parameters for her species. Nothing about her should have produced this result, and yet she had dismantled 6 combat drones faster than any cadet he had seen in 20 years. Time recorded, Vorith said slowly. 1 minute and 47 seconds. The crowd remained silent. Even Ryan had nothing to say. His golden eyes watched Danny with something new in them. Not anger anymore. Something closer to fear. Danny walked off the arena floor and passed by a Malorian female with glowing blue patterns on her skin. The alien watched her with wide eyes. How did you do that? The Malorian asked. You have no enhancements. No special abilities. How is that possible? Danny thought about the question. She thought about the years of training, the falls and failures and long nights pushing her body past its limits. She thought about Earth and what it meant to grow up on a world that tried to kill you every single day. On Earth, we call that Tuesday, she said. She kept walking. Behind her, she heard whispers spreading through the crowd. She heard her name repeated again and again. She heard the word that would follow her for the rest of her time at the academy. Impossible, but it was not impossible. It was simply human. That night, Scylla the Malorian found Danny in the mess hall eating alone. She sat down across from her without asking permission. "I want to understand," Scylla said. "What are humans?" Danny looked up from her food. She saw genuine curiosity in the alien's glowing eyes. No mockery, no hate, just a desire to know. "We are survivors," Danny said. "That is all." She returned to her meal. But she did not tell Scylla to leave. Maybe not all of them were enemies. Hatred is a patient thing. It waits for the right moment to strike. 3 days had passed since the training demonstration. 3 days of whispers and stares, and cadets moving out of Danny's way in the corridors. Some looked at her with curiosity now. Others looked at her with something darker. Ryan was one of the dark ones. His pride had been wounded in front of everyone. The primitive human had made him look like a fool. His predictions of her failure had been wrong. His family name meant nothing when a creature from a backwater planet could outperform him, that he needed to fix that. Danny sat alone in the mess hall that evening. Her tray held simple food that her human body could process. Most galactic cuisine was either toxic or tasteless to her species. She had learned to eat what she could and ignore what she could not. She felt them coming before she saw them. 8 cadets approached her table. Ryan led the group with his golden eyes burning with anger. Behind him stood 7 others, each one larger than her, each one eager to prove something. "Human," Ryan said. Danny continued eating. She did not look up. "I am talking to you," Ryan growled. He slammed his hand on the table, making her tray jump. "I know," Danny said calmly. "I am choosing to ignore you." The cadets behind Ryan laughed nervously. They had expected her to be afraid. They had expected her to run or beg or at least show some reaction. Her complete lack of concern confused them. "Your little trick in the training hall means nothing," Ryan said. "Those were machines. They do not fight back with real intent. They do not want to hurt you." Danny finally looked up. Her dark eyes met his golden ones. "And you do. Someone needs to teach you where you belong." Danny pushed her tray aside slowly. She stood up from the table, and even though she was shorter than every alien around her, something in her posture made them step back. "You want to do this here?" she asked. "Or somewhere with more room?" Ryan smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Follow us." They led her to an empty simulation chamber deep in the training section. The room was large and bare with padded walls for combat practice. No instructors, no cameras, no witnesses, perfect for what they planned. The 8 cadets spread out in a circle around Danny. Some cracked their knuckles. Some extended claws she had not noticed before. One of them, a massive Krellian with scarred scales, looked almost sorry for what was about to happen. "Last chance to apologize," Ryan said. "Admit that you cheated somehow. Admit that humans do not belong here. Do that, and we will let you walk away." Danny rolled her shoulders. She shifted her weight to the balls of her feet. Her breathing slowed. "No," she said. Ryan charged first. He was fast for his size, his blue fist aimed at her face with enough force to break bones. Danny moved like water. She stepped inside his swing, grabbed his arm, and used his momentum to throw him into the Krellian behind her. Both crashed to the ground in a tangle of limbs. The other 6 attacked together. What happened next would become legend in the academy. Danny fought like nothing they had ever seen. She was not stronger than them. She was not faster than them. But she was smarter. She read their movements before they happened. She found the weak points in their attacks. She turned their own power against them. A Felorian swung at her head. She ducked and drove her fist into his stomach, hitting a nerve cluster that dropped him instantly. A Malorian tried to blind her with his bioluminescence. She closed her eyes and listened to his footsteps instead, then kicked his legs out from under him. 2 cadets grabbed her arms from behind. She went limp, dropped her weight, and rolled forward, pulling them both over her and into each other. Ryan came at her again with rage in his eyes. She blocked his first strike, his second, his third, then swept his legs and put him on the ground with her knee on his chest. 90 seconds. 8 cadets, all of them down. Danny stood in the center of the room without a single mark on her. She was not breathing hard. She was not shaking. She looked like she could do this all over again. The door burst open. Security officers rushed in with weapons drawn. Someone had heard the commotion after all. "Everyone stay where you are," the lead officer commanded. He was Valoran, tall and thin with gray skin and 4 eyes that scanned the room quickly. He saw 8 cadets groaning on the floor. He saw one human standing among them like a statue. "What happened here?" "Training accident," Danny said. The officer did not believe her, but he followed protocol. He pulled out a medical scanner and began checking each cadet for injuries. Bruises, sprains, one dislocated shoulder. Nothing permanent, but enough to require treatment. Then he scanned Danny. The device beeped. The officer looked at the screen. His 4 eyes went wide. One word flashed in red letters across the display. "Earthborn." The officer stepped back. His hand went to his weapon. "Deathworlder," he whispered. "She is a deathworlder." The other security officers froze. Even the injured cadets stopped groaning and stared. Danny stood still and waited. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Deathworlder. A being from a planet so dangerous, so hostile, so deadly that survival itself was an achievement, and they had just attacked one. "Commandant Dura needs to see this," the lead officer said. His voice shook slightly. Immediately, Commandant Dura's office smelled like old paper and distant stars. The ancient Valoran sat behind a desk covered in real books, a luxury that most species had abandoned centuries ago. Her gray skin was wrinkled with age, and her 4 eyes held a weight of knowledge that came from living through 3 galactic wars. She studied Danny with an expression that gave nothing away. "Close the door," Dura said. Danny obeyed. The door sealed behind her with a soft click, and suddenly the sounds of the academy disappeared. They were alone. "Sit." Danny sat in the chair across from the commandant. It was sized for larger species, making her feel even smaller than usual. She suspected that was intentional. "Admiral Torath has already contacted me," Dura said. "He is demanding your immediate expulsion. His son claims you attacked 8 cadets without provocation. That is not what happened." "I know." Dura tapped a device on her desk. A holographic recording appeared, showing the entire fight from a hidden camera angle. The simulation chambers are never truly unmonitored. "I saw everything." Danny watched herself on the recording. She watched the 8 cadets surround her. She watched herself take them apart with brutal efficiency. "They will face consequences," Dura continued. "But that is not why you are here." The commandant stood and walked to a shelf lined with artifacts from different worlds. She picked up a small blue sphere and held it in her weathered hands. "Do you know what this is?" Danny shook her head. "It is a memory crystal from the planet Velos, my homeworld. We use them to record important moments so that future generations can learn from them." Dura placed the sphere back on the shelf. "I have been recording moments from this academy for over 60 years. I have seen thousands of cadets come and go. I have watched species rise and fall. I thought I understood the galaxy." She turned to face Danny. "Then humanity made contact, and I realized I understood nothing." The commandant returned to her desk and pulled up a holographic display. Images of Earth filled the air. Oceans and mountains, deserts and forests, cities that sprawled across landscapes like living things. "Your planet is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld," Dura said. "Do you know what that means?" "I know what they call us." "Then you know why the scanner flagged you. Earth has gravity 20% higher than galactic standard. Your atmosphere contains gases that would poison most species. Your star produces radiation that would cause cancer in Malorians within a month. You have temperature swings of over 100 degrees between seasons. You have apex predators that hunt your kind for food. You have natural disasters that destroy entire cities without warning." Dura leaned forward. "By every standard we use to measure habitability, your planet should be empty. And yet 8 billion humans live there, thrive there." Danny said nothing. She had grown up knowing that Earth was dangerous. She had never considered it unusual. "Your species is technically the most dangerous in known space," Dura continued. "Not because of your technology, which is primitive by our standards. Not because of your numbers, which are small compared to established species. You are dangerous because you evolved on a world that should have killed you." She pulled up more images. Humans climbing mountains covered in ice. Humans swimming in oceans full of predators. Humans running through deserts under a blazing sun. You do not have natural armor. You do not have claws or venom or telepathy. You have something far more terrifying. You have the ability to adapt, to endure, to keep going when any rational creature would stop. Danny finally spoke. You knew all of this before I arrived. Yes. Then why did you let me in? Dura smiled. It was the first emotion she had shown. Because I wanted to see what would happen. I wanted to watch how our cadets would react to a deathworlder among them. I wanted to know if humanity was ready for the galaxy. And what did you learn? I learned that I was right to be curious. Dura sat back in her chair. You showed restraint tonight. You could have seriously injured those cadets. You chose not to. They were stupid, Danny said. Stupid is not a crime. The commandant laughed. It was a dry, ancient sound. No, it is not. She pulled up one final image. A symbol that Danny did not recognize. 3 stars forming a triangle with a blade through the center. This is the mark of the Vanguard program. Elite soldiers who handle threats too dangerous for normal units. Deathworld outbreaks. First contact situations. Operations where survival is not expected but required. Danny understood immediately. You want me to join? I am offering you a choice. You can continue as a regular cadet, knowing that the truth about your origins will follow you everywhere. Or you can transfer to the Vanguard, where your abilities will be valued instead of feared. Danny looked at the symbol floating in the air. 3 stars. A blade. A promise of something greater. How long do I have to decide? Take as long as you need. Dura stood, signaling that the meeting was ending. But remember this, Cadet Reyes. The galaxy is not as stable as it appears. There are threats coming that will require soldiers who do not know how to quit. Soldiers who were forged by impossible conditions. She met Danny's eyes. Soldiers who are Earthborn. Danny stood and walked to the door. She paused before opening it. Commandant, why do you care about humanity? Dura was quiet for a long moment. Because I am old enough to remember when my own species was dismissed as primitive. I know what it feels like to prove the galaxy wrong. She nodded toward the door. Go. Think about your future. But do not take too long. The future has a way of arriving faster than we expect. Danny left the office with more questions than answers. But one thing was certain. The galaxy was about to learn what Earthborn truly meant. Secrets do not stay hidden in places filled with young soldiers. By morning, every cadet in the academy knew the truth about Danny Reyes. The word spread through dormitories and mess halls and training rooms like fire through dry grass. Earthborn, deathworlder. The human was from a Class 12 death planet. Reactions varied. Some cadets avoided her completely. They changed direction when they saw her coming. They refused to sit near her in classes. Their fear was so strong that Danny could almost taste it. Others watched her with new eyes. Curiosity replaced mockery. They studied her movements, her posture, her calm expression. They wondered what it was like to grow up on a world that wanted to kill you. Scylla found her in the observation deck overlooking the stars. I heard what happened, the Malorian said. She stood a respectful distance away, her bioluminescent markings glowing soft blue in the dim light. Everyone has heard. Danny did not turn from the window. And what do you think? I think I finally understand. Scylla moved closer, her reflection appearing in the glass beside Danny's. We have always been told that death worlds produce monsters. Savage creatures driven only by survival instinct. But you are not a monster. Some would disagree. Some are fools. Scylla hesitated, then asked the question that had been burning in her mind. What is it really like? Your planet. Danny was quiet for a long moment. Then she began to speak. Earth has oceans that cover most of its surface. They are beautiful and deadly. We have creatures in those waters that can swallow boats whole. We have currents that drag swimmers to their deaths. We have waves that flatten cities. Scylla's markings flickered with unease, but she listened. We have mountains so high that the air becomes too thin to breathe. We have deserts where the heat can cook you alive and tundras where the cold will freeze you solid. We have storms that form in hours and destroy everything in their path. Danny finally turned to face the Malorian. We have insects that spread diseases killing millions. We have predators that hunt us for food. We have plants that poison on contact. Every day on Earth is a battle against something that wants you dead. Scylla's eyes were wide. How do you survive? We adapt. We learn. We build. We refuse to give up. Danny almost smiled. We do not survive despite our world. We survive because of it. Earth made us what we are. It forged us in fire and ice and blood. Every generation passes down the lessons of survival to the next. That sounds terrifying. It is. It is also home. Danny looked back at the stars. I would not trade it for any paradise in the galaxy. They stood in silence, watching the distant lights of other worlds. I am sorry, Scylla said quietly, for how I treated you before. I was wrong. You were afraid of something you did not understand. That is not wrong. That is natural. Still, I am sorry. Danny nodded. It was enough. Later that evening, Danny returned to her dormitory through the empty corridors. Most cadets were in their rooms, studying or sleeping. The academy grew quiet after hours, its metal halls echoing with every footstep. She sensed him before she saw him. Ryan stepped out of an alcove ahead of her. His arm was in a sling from the dislocated shoulder. His face carried bruises that had not yet healed, but his golden eyes held something different than before. No rage, no hatred, something closer to confusion, and he held a weapon. It was a ceremonial blade, the kind Felorian families passed down through generations. Sharp enough to cut through armor, deadly in trained hands. Ryan, Danny said calmly. I have been thinking, he said. His voice was rough. About what happened. About what you are. And I do not understand. His grip on the blade tightened. How can something so small, so plain, so ordinary be so dangerous? It does not make sense. Put the blade down. I could kill you right now. I could end this. Danny stepped closer. Ryan flinched but held his ground. You could try, she said. But we both know how that would end. And I do not want to hurt you again. What? The question burst out of him like a wound. I attacked you. I humiliated you. I tried to drive you away. Why would you show me mercy? Danny stopped directly in front of him. Close enough that he could strike. Close enough that she could stop him. Because you are not my enemy, she said. You are my future squadmate. Someday, we might fight together. We might save each other's lives. I am not going to ruin that over pride. Ryan stared at her. His hand trembled on the blade. On Earth, Danny continued, we have a saying. We do not leave anyone behind. Not friends. Not enemies. Not even fools who attack us in simulation chambers. She held out her hand. Put it down. Start over. Be better. The moment stretched like eternity. Then, slowly, Ryan lowered the blade. His shoulders sagged. He looked like a person who had been carrying a heavy weight for too long and finally set it down. He did not take her hand. But he nodded. I do not apologize, he said quietly. I do not need you to. But I will not forget this. He turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing down the corridor. Earthborn. Danny watched him go. It was not friendship. It was not forgiveness. But it was a beginning, and beginnings were enough. Every year, the Academy held the proving ceremony. It was a tradition older than most species remembered. First-year cadets demonstrated their worth before the entire Academy. Instructors watched. Commanders watched. Sometimes admirals from distant fleets watched through holographic feeds that stretched across the galaxy. This year, everyone was watching. The assembly hall was massive. Thousands of seats rose in tiers around a central arena. Flags from every member species hung from the ceiling. The air hummed with energy and expectation. Danny stood at the entrance, looking out at the crowd. She wore her cadet uniform pressed and clean. Her hair was tied back. Her expression was calm. Instructor Vorith approached her. The towering Krellian looked different than before. His forearms were clasped behind his back, and his scale seemed less hostile somehow. You were selected to represent the first-year class, he said. Do you know why? No, sir. Because the Commandant believes you have something to show us. Something that matters more than strength or speed or technology. He paused. Do not disappoint her. Danny nodded. Yes, sir. Vorith hesitated, then spoke again. His voice was softer. I was wrong about you, Cadet Reyes. I judged you by your species. I expected you to fail. That was my mistake. Thank you, sir. Do not thank me. Prove me wrong in front of everyone. He stepped aside. The arena is yours. Danny walked into the light. The crowd fell silent as she entered. Thousands of alien eyes followed her small figure crossing the enormous floor. She could feel their curiosity, their doubt, their fear. She could feel the weight of being the first human to stand in this place. The demonstration was simple. Scylla lay on the ground at the far end of the arena, playing the role of a wounded soldier. An obstacle course stretched between them, filled with barriers and trenches and simulated hazards. Overhead, training drones flew in attack patterns, firing harmless but distracting energy bursts. The task was to carry a wounded comrade across the course while under fire. Other cadets had done similar demonstrations over the years. They used their species' advantages. They showed off impressive moves and flashy techniques. They made it look like a performance. Danny did not perform. She simply ran. The drones fired. She did not try to fight them. She did not try to dodge with fancy moves. She just kept running, letting the energy bursts hit her protective gear while she focused on reaching Scylla. She crossed barriers without hesitation. She jumped trenches without slowing. When she reached Scylla, she did not waste time with words. She just lifted the Malorian onto her shoulders and started back. Scylla was heavier than a human. The added weight should have slowed Danny down. It should have made the obstacles harder. It should have made the return journey a struggle. Danny did not slow down. She carried Scylla across every barrier. She protected her from the drone fire with her own body. When she stumbled, she caught herself and kept going. When her muscles burned, she ignored the pain. When her lungs screamed for air, she breathed through it. No special abilities. No genetic advantages. No technology. Just a human refusing to leave someone behind. She crossed the finish line and gently lowered Scylla to the ground. The drones stopped firing. The obstacles powered down. The arena went silent. Danny stood alone in the center, breathing hard for the first time since arriving at the academy. Sweat ran down her face. Her uniform was scorched from the energy hits she had taken protecting Scylla. And then the assembly hall erupted, not with applause. With something older, something deeper. Thousands of fists pressed against thousands of hearts. The galactic salute of respect. A gesture reserved for warriors who had proven themselves beyond doubt. They were saluting her. Danny looked around at the sea of faces. She saw species that had mocked her. Species that had feared her. Species that had tried to drive her away. Now they stood united in recognition of something they had never expected to see at a human who would not quit. After the ceremony, Instructor Vorith found her outside the hall. "That was not what I expected," he said. "What did you expect?" "I expected you to show off. To prove how dangerous you are. To make them fear you." He shook his massive head. "Instead, you showed them something else." "I showed them what matters," Danny said. "On Earth, we do not measure soldiers by how many enemies they destroy. We measure them by how many friends they save." Vorith was quiet for a long time. "I have trained soldiers for 30 years, he finally said. "I have never understood why humans became so successful so quickly. Now I think I do." He offered her a nod of genuine respect. "You do not fight to win. You fight for each other." "Yes," Danny said simply. "We do." That night, she stood at her window one last time. The stars stretched before her like an infinite sea of possibilities. Somewhere out there, Earth hung in the darkness. Small, blue, dangerous, home. She had made her decision about the Vanguard program. She would join. She would become what the galaxy needed her to become. But she would never forget where she came from. The Commandant's words echoed in her mind. The galaxy was not as stable as it appeared. Threats were coming. Soldiers who could not quit would be needed. Soldiers who were Earthborn. Danny smiled at the stars. They had called her planet a death world. They had called her species primitive. They had expected her to fail, to break, to prove that humans did not belong among the stars. They had no idea who they were dealing with, because Earth did not raise soldiers. Earth raised survivors, and the galaxy would never be the same.